I am the founder of an educational consultant company located in the city of Chicago called Learning Dimensions. The services that I offer to my clients allow them to deliver transformative learning experiences through curriculum development, teacher professional development, and strategic planning for educational programs. My clients are incredibly diverse. I work with schools. I also work with museums and other cultural spaces. I work with tech innovation centers and also a few film companies as well. All of these clients, as well as clients who seek after my services, have one thing in mind. They want to change the educational landscape to make a difference to our learners. I've had years of experiences in this field, as well as closely examining learning both in theory as well as in practice. So from my observations, there's an interesting phenomenon that happens when it comes to truly learning something new. Perhaps this may have happened to you. But for whatever reason, it seems as if when you're at the threshold of accomplishing a very complex task or learning something new, guess what? Limiting thoughts seem to come to the surface. Does that sound familiar to anyone here? Let me give you an example. Although I've spoken in front of crowds and I've done trainings and I've taught classes, but when it came to me preparing for the TED Talk, I had my fair share of limiting thoughts that came to the surface. And they were so pervasive to the point that they were trying to become mental blocks, in essence, trying to attempt to enable me to be challenged from even doing this talk. So let me tell you a little bit about what was happening to me. The first thing that came to mind was, hey, Monica, do you think you have what it takes to talk about mental conditioning and removing mental blocks? That was the first thought that came to mind. And then another thought, yeah, I know you're all about education, but do you think you have the knowledge base about this? Okay, it seems like it comes in cycles, asking the same question over and over again. And then it got to the most ultimate limiting thought, and I know you all have had this thought, and if not, please share with me what you are doing that I did not do. But what came to mind was, you know what, I cannot do this. And then I said, why did I even agree to do this after all? Well, first of all, you gotta keep in mind that those mental blocks, they are there to hinder you from doing something new that might take you outside of your comfort zone if you allow them to do just that. Well, I'm happy to say that I pushed beyond my mental blocks, and I'm happy to be able to share this evening with all of you. So let's talk a little bit about learning as we transition. Learning is organic and it's dynamic. But guess what? When it comes to truly learning something, you're gonna go through a lot of obstacles and challenges. I know many of you may have encountered that sometime in your life. But I have some good news for you. By going through those obstacles and challenges, guess what? You have a wonderful opportunity to not only learn something new, but to practice something that at one point in time may have been incredibly challenging. And then also you have the opportunity to reflect on who you are, what your strengths as well as your weaknesses. So look at it. When you're at the threshold of truly learning something, look at it as an opportunity for growth and mastery. So how do we get there? How do we go to the point where we push beyond those mental limitations, go beyond those mental blocks, unblock our mind, perhaps think outside the box, try something new, and master some complex skills? To do that, what I would like to do for the next few moments is to introduce a few strategies on how to solve puzzles. And using one puzzle in particular called the 9 dots puzzle, I'm going to go ahead and project it here. We'll walk through a few steps to outline some approaches to solving puzzles, but also unblocking the mind and moving beyond our mental blocks. So here is the 9 dots puzzle as I have projected here. It's made up of 3 rows, 3 columns. Each column, each row has 3 dots. Okay, so I used to be a former teacher. So here, this is my task to all of you. And if you can, indulge me if you will. I would like you to solve this puzzle by connecting all of the dots. But here are the rules. You can only draw 4 lines, and you cannot cross the line more than once. So do this in your mind. I'll give you a few moments just to see if you can figure out this puzzle. So perhaps you might say, oh, this is super easy. I don't even know why she asked this. I'm going to go ahead and draw a line around the top, the bottom, right, left, the perimeter of the square. But guess what? I have a feeling you did not connect all the dots. Probably the center dot was not connected. For some of my very creative people, you said, you know what, I got this. I'll go up the right or the left. I'll take the top. Oh, and guess what? I'll go diagonal. Very creative. I congratulate you on that. But I bet you did not connect every single dot. Interesting enough, to solve this particular puzzle, you actually have to think outside the box in order to connect every single dot. Is it just that simple? It sure is. We all have heard that phrase, thinking outside the box. It's been coined by poets and authors and psychologists. So when it comes to moving beyond those mental limitations, pushing beyond those mental blocks, unblocking the mind is as simple as thinking outside the box. So how do we do that? The first thing I want to just offer as a suggestion is nothing is as difficult as it initially seems. So not only am I an educational consultant, I also am a registered yoga teacher. And yes, that is me. And the first thing my students tell me when they come to my yoga classes is, you know what, I was looking in this fitness magazine, and I want to do some kind of very difficult posture, but they've never done yoga before. And so what I like to share with them is not about the full posture or asana, if we say that in Sanskrit. It's about the preparation postures to get you to that peak posture, if you will. So if you come to looking at pushing beyond those mental blocks and addressing very difficult problems, it is all about the preparation. What are those steps that you take, tackling these smaller challenges in order to accomplish a greater challenge and master a complex skill? The second recommendation is, at all costs, try to avoid barriers that tries to confine your abilities. And it usually is located in your mind. It's interesting, initially by staying within those barriers, it seems a little comforting. You might find contentment. But there's a whole world if you just step outside of that box. A whole learning journey that you would be able to explore if you go beyond those confining barriers. So, it really is all about perception. What do you truly see? Is the glass half empty or is it half full? You are the only one who can determine the answer to those questions. Another suggestion I would like to offer is, and this is a big one, society places norms as well as stereotypes. There's a definition of what one is supposed to do or achieve based upon their gender, perhaps their race, or even their age, and you can add some other qualifiers in there. But push beyond those stereotypes or those social norms. You set the definition of what success means for you. Similar to these young ladies, this is during World War II. I used to be a history teacher, so you always got to slide a little history in there. But these young ladies were actually female pilots during World War II. Now, to find a female pilot today is somewhat rare. But imagine during the 1940s, the rarity of having female pilots. So I want to encourage you, it's not about the social norms or those stereotypes that become the barriers. You are the one that define the success for you. Interesting enough, paying attention to some fine details, it's very fundamental. Because in those fine details, perhaps the solution to a problem or the key to unlocking a puzzle is right before your eyes. And this one I am always challenged with. Never be afraid to make mistakes. It has been said that your last mistake is probably the best lesson. So don't shy away from the mistakes. Look at your mistakes as opportunities to gauge and reflect, what are those things that I have strength in? What are those areas that I need to grow in? So use your mistakes in order to make improvements and solve complex problems. So some years back, when I decided to leave my job to pursue becoming an entrepreneur, I had my fair share of mental blocks. I began to wonder, Monica, you've been an educator working in a classroom or at the district level, but you're not a businesswoman. I also said, you're an African-American woman. You know how hard it is to be in business, period, and to be a woman, but also to be African-American. And then, of course, the big thing is money, all right? Money. Will I have the financial resources? But I went back to that 9 dots puzzle and thought about thinking outside the box. I did that puzzle many, many years ago. Actually, the first year that I decided to teach, I had a mentor who shared that puzzle with me, and just like all of you, I thought I had the solution until it came to the point that I had to think outside the box to solve the puzzle. Interesting enough, I always thought about thinking outside the box for both my personal as well as professional life. So I decided to go back to that thought and said, Monica, you need to think outside the box. It's not about being African American. It's not being a female. It's not being an educator versus an entrepreneur. Think outside the box. And so you know what? I did. Had the courage to move beyond those mental blocks, push those mental limitations away. And that made all the difference in the world. So my challenge to all of you is jump right on in. Dare to do something awesome. The whole world is waiting for what you have to offer. Thank you.